Welcome to EduRev. Have you ever met someone who just does everything well backwards and upside down? Someone so silly and different that you just can't help but smile. Well, today I'm going to tell you all about a time I met a very funny man. Okay, so picture this. It all started on what I thought was a totally ordinary day when this not so ordinary man came walking right down my street. I knew from the second I saw him this was going to be an interesting day. The absolute first thing that caught my eye was his clothes. They were, well, they weren't like anything I had ever seen before. Let's just say his take on fashion was one of a kind. Can you just imagine that? I mean, we've all seen mismatched socks, right? But this was on a whole other level. It was so unexpected, so out there, I just had to stop and stare. That's right, a shoe right where a hat should be, and hats on his feet where his shoes should be. This little mix up told me everything I needed to know. This guy did not follow the usual rules. He was definitely marching to the beat of his own drum. So, what do you think? When you see someone dressed so differently, what does it tell you about who they are? It's kind of a fun thing to think about, isn't it? Exactly. To me, it showed that he was creative and totally unique. And you know what? He probably didn't care one single bit about what other people thought was normal. He was just happy being himself in all his topsy turvy glory. Oh, but the story doesn't stop there, not even close. As he got nearer, I realized his behavior was just as peculiar as his outfit. He saw me watching him and he decided to say hello. He was actually incredibly polite. He smiled, he offered a greeting, but he did it in his own special way. And this is where things got even more fun. And that phrase, funny sounding sight, that's just perfect. He tipped the shoe on his head like it was a totally proper hat. The sight was so bizarre, so wonderfully out of place, that it felt like it made a sound, the sound of pure silliness. Mixing that politeness with how he looked, wow, it was a moment I'll never forget. Just when I thought things couldn't possibly get any stranger, he decides to give me a gift. And of course, it was no ordinary present. I mean, listen to how formal he is, calling me Your Highness, which was hilarious all by itself. He offered me a rose, but then he presented something completely different. I was completely surprised. I was floored. Instead of a beautiful flower, there he was, holding up a sweet currant bun for me to smell. It was just the perfect example of his playful personality. He just loved turning everything upside down to create a moment of pure, joyful surprise. At this point, I was so caught up in his world that I just had to play along. I stumbled back, pretending to be all shocked, and I came up with a reply that I hoped would match his level of silliness. So, what did I even mean by a funny looking smell? It's a playful little mix up of the senses, right? A smell doesn't really look like anything. By saying that, I was joining his game. I was letting him know that I got it, that I understood his rose was a bun, and we were sharing this wonderfully silly moment together. But wait, the encounter wasn't quite over yet. His farewell, well, that was maybe the most memorable part of the whole thing. He just plopped right down on the ground and started singing. I called it a funny feeling sound because, just like everything else about him, his song was probably just as quirky and unconventional. It was the kind of sound that just makes you feel amused and happy. I finally worked up the courage to ask him about the hats for shoes. But did he give me a straight answer? Of course not. Instead, he gave the most fantastical reply of all. He just turned around and hopped home on his head. It was the perfect impossible exit for a perfectly impossible man. So after he hopped away on his head, I was just left there smiling. I realized this wasn't just some silly encounter. There was a really wonderful message in all his madness. Meeting that funny man taught me some really powerful things. It showed me that being different isn't just okay, it's actually a wonderful way to spread joy. His imagination and his playfulness didn't just make him happy, they made my entire day brighter too. It's such a great reminder to not take everything so seriously and to really celebrate those light, funny moments that make life so special. I really, really hope you enjoyed our little journey with the funny man. Thinking back on his story always brings a smile to my face. And hey, if you want to explore more fun lessons just like this one and dive into all of your subjects, you should definitely download the EduRev app. You can find it on both the Play Store and the iOS App Store.